It was a sunny summer day. The leaves on the trees were green, and the fields of grain were yellow. There was an old house in the middle of a field. There was a pond behind the old house. A duck sat on her nest, waiting for her eggs to hatch. She waited patiently and looked at the pond. Finally, one bright morning, the eggs began to crack. Soon, the ducklings poked their little yellow heads out. There was one more egg. It was bigger than the others. Patiently, the duck continued to sit and wait. At last, the big egg cracked, but instead of a little yellow duckling like the others, a big, gray, ugly duckling came out. The other ducklings laughed at him, but Mother Duck loved him anyway. The ducklings grew very quickly. Soon they were ready to learn to swim. The sun was shining, and there wasn't any cloud in the sky. Mother Duck decided that it was a good day to teach them to swim. Mother Duck and her ducklings made their way to a shallow part of the pond. First, the ducklings watched their mother swim. Then, it was their turn to try. After a few tries, all the ducklings were swimming beautifully. All summer long, the ducklings played happily in the sun and swam in the pond. But the big gray duckling wasn't happy. The other ducklings didn't want to play with him. He tried to make friends with a hedgehog and a rabbit, but they laughed at him and called him ugly. Every night, the duckling cried and cried and cried till he fell asleep. One day, he decided to run away because nobody liked him. And that's what the ugly duckling did. He ran out the gate. He ran until he couldn't see his home any longer. Then he fell asleep. The next morning, the ugly duckling met some geese. "You are very ugly," they said, laughing. "We don't want you here." Then they left the ugly duckling alone. The ugly duckling ran away again. He ran past fields of grains. He ran past fields of corn. He ran past apple trees. He ran until it was dark outside. By now, the ugly duckling was tired and hungry. He had to find some place to sleep. Soon, the ugly duckling came to a little cottage. Its door was almost falling off, so the ugly duckling went inside. He was very tired, that is why he was fast asleep. When he awoke the next morning, he saw an old woman who was standing over him. She had a broom in one hand and a basket in the other one. She put the duckling into the basket and carried him to the kitchen. She gave him some corn to eat. There was a dog and a chicken in the kitchen too. The old woman put the duckling down near the fire. As soon as the woman was out of the room, the dog and the chicken began to talk to the duckling. "What can you do?" asked the dog. "Can you bark to scare away robbers?" "No," said the duckling. "Can you lay eggs?" asked the chicken. "No," said the duckling sadly. "Then you'll have to leave," said the dog and the chicken. "There is no room for animals who can't earn their living." So the ugly duckling went away again. Everywhere he went, he was told he was big and ugly. He felt really sad that he had no friends. A big tear rolled down his cheek. Winter was coming. The leaves were falling from the trees. The ground was cold. One day, it was so cold that the duckling had to peek through the ice to find water. That night, the tired duckling fell asleep on the icy ground. The next morning, a kind farmer found the poor duckling. He picked up the duckling and wrapped him in his scarf. "Don't be afraid," said the farmer. "I'll take you home to my family. We'll take good care of you." When the duckling was warm, the farmer's children tried to play with him. But the duckling was frightened and ran under the table. Then he knocked over a milk bottle. The farmer's wife was furious. The ugly duckling didn't mean to be naughty, but the children didn't leave him alone. So the duckling left the farmer's warm house. All winter, the ugly duckling hid among the tall reeds around the marsh. He was very cold and unhappy. Slowly, spring came to the marsh. The snow melted. The grass and the flowers appeared on the hills. Butterflies came out and enjoyed the beautiful weather. The ice on the pond melted, and fish jumped in and out of the water, and frogs played near the banks. Now, the ugly duckling was strong enough to fly high over the marsh. One day, the ugly duckling was flying over the marsh when he saw some beautiful white swans. "I wish I looked like them," he thought. Just then, one of the swans looked at him and said, "Join us." The ugly duckling was very surprised. As he landed near the swans, the ugly duckling saw his reflection in the water. I look like them, he exclaimed. I'm a swan. I'm not ugly after all. The ugly duckling joined the other swans, and from that day on, he was never sad or lonely again.